The Easter ham sat untouched on my dining room table as Aunt Patricia transformed our family gathering into what she called a necessary conversation about property inheritance. She'd positioned herself at the head of my custom-built table like a judge preparing to deliver verdicts. "Since Grandma Rose left us this beautiful estate," she announced to the assembled relatives, "we need to discuss fair distribution among the family." Beautiful estate. The 6,800 square foot home with its pool house, tennis court and 3-acre grounds that I designed and built myself over 2 years of careful planning and construction management. "Patricia's absolutely right," Uncle Mike agreed, gesturing around my living room with obvious appreciation. "This property is too valuable to leave unresolved. We should establish clear ownership shares." Ownership shares. For the house I'd purchased, designed, and built using profits from my architectural firm. My cousin Jenny looked up from her phone where she'd been photographing my custom kitchen. "I think the pool house would be perfect for my family's weekend getaways. It's like a separate apartment." The pool house, which I designed with a full kitchen and guest suite specifically for clients who wanted to see examples of luxury recreational architecture. "Jenny's got a point," her brother Tom added. "The main house could be divided between the core family members. Mom and Dad could take the master suite, I'll take the east wing with my kids." The east wing. My home office and private studio where I developed architectural plans for million-dollar projects. "That leaves the guest quarters for Marcus and Lisa," Aunt Patricia continued, consulting notes she'd apparently prepared in advance. "Everyone gets appropriate space based on family size and needs." Family size and needs. Marcus worked as a regional sales manager for office furniture. Lisa was a part-time bookkeeper for local small businesses. Neither had ever earned enough to afford a down payment on a starter home, let alone a custom estate. "What about Emma?" Mom asked, finally acknowledging my presence at my own dining table. "Well," Aunt Patricia said with that patient tone reserved for discussing disappointing relatives, "Emma's never shown much interest in family property or traditional responsibilities." Traditional responsibilities. Like the responsibility of earning the money to buy the land, hire the contractors, and manage the construction process that created the property they were dividing. "Plus, Emma travels so much for her architecture work," Uncle Mike added. "She barely uses this place. It makes sense to give space to family members who'll actually live here." Architecture work. The same work that had generated enough income to build the house they were currently redistributing among themselves. "I think the arrangement is perfect," Jenny said, already mentally redecorating the pool house. "Everyone gets what they need and we keep the property in the family." Keep the property in the family. The property that was already in the family, specifically in my name on the deed, mortgage and tax records. "Emma," Aunt Patricia said with magnanimous authority, "you can have the basement recreation room. It's perfect for someone who needs a quiet space for computer work." Computer work. I was a licensed architect who designed luxury homes and commercial buildings across 3 states. "That sounds very thoughtful," I replied calmly. "I'm sure this arrangement will work out exactly as you've planned." The irony would be legally binding. The family property division continued through Easter dessert as relatives claimed rooms and spaces with increasing enthusiasm. Aunt Patricia had produced a hand-drawn floor plan and was making official assignments while Uncle Mike discussed renovation ideas for his master bedroom. "The important thing," Patricia explained while marking territories on her crude map, "is that everyone understands their responsibilities. Property taxes, utilities, maintenance. We'll split everything fairly." Property taxes. On the house I'd been paying for exclusively for the past 3 years. "I've already talked to a contractor about expanding the guest quarters," Marcus said, measuring walls with his eyes. "Lisa and I need more closet space." More closet space. In the house he'd visited exactly 4 times since I'd moved in. "The pool house definitely needs updating," Jenny added, scrolling through interior design photos on her phone. "New appliances, maybe a hot tub on the deck." New appliances. For the pool house I'd equipped with professional-grade kitchen equipment and luxury finishes. "What about the tennis court?" Tom asked. "My kids would love to learn tennis, but the surface needs resurfacing." The tennis court, which I'd had professionally installed and maintained at a cost of $47,000. "All these improvements will increase the property value," Uncle Mike said with obvious satisfaction. We're not just inheriting a house, we're building generational wealth. Generational wealth. Built on the foundation of someone else's actual work and investment. Mom cleared her throat diplomatically. I think we should make sure Emma's comfortable with these arrangements. It is technically her house. Technically her house. The phrase hung in the air like a legal challenge waiting to be resolved. Well, yes, Aunt Patricia said dismissively, but Grandma Rose always intended this property to benefit the whole family. Emma just happened to be in the right position to handle the paperwork. The paperwork. Like the mortgage application, credit checks, down payment, and 2 years of construction loans that had made the house possible. Besides, Jenny added, Emma makes good money as an architect. She can afford to share family resources. Family resources that I'd created through my own professional success. The basement recreation room is actually quite spacious, Uncle Mike assured me. You'll have plenty of room for your drafting table and computer equipment. My drafting table. In the basement of the house where I'd designed a second-floor master studio with north-facing windows and professional lighting. I appreciate everyone's thoughtful planning, I said, pulling out my phone to check messages. This conversation has been very illuminating about family expectations. A text from my attorney was waiting. Property deed verification complete. House titled exclusively to Emma Chin. HOA meeting tonight if you want to discuss boundary issues. The HOA meeting, where I served as vice president, and the main topic would be new construction guidelines for our exclusive neighborhood. Tomorrow's legal realities would clarify tonight's family delusions. The doorbell rang just as Aunt Patricia finished assigning utility payment schedules to various family members. Through the front windows I could see our HOA president, Margaret Williams, walking up the front path with her usual portfolio of neighborhood business. That's probably about the landscaping committee, I said, opening the door to Margaret's professional smile. Emma, sorry to interrupt your family gathering, Margaret said, but we need to discuss the Henderson property boundary dispute. As HOA vice president, your input on property lines is crucial. HOA vice president. The title seemed to register slowly across the dining room as family members processed this unexpected information. Of course, Margaret. Would you like to come in for a moment? Margaret entered with the confidence of someone accustomed to handling neighborhood property issues. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the assembled relatives with polite curiosity. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, she said diplomatically. Actually, Aunt Patricia said, recovering her authority, we were just discussing family property arrangements. I'm Patricia Chin, Emma's aunt. How nice to meet you, Margaret replied. Emma's done such beautiful work on this property. The architectural design is absolutely stunning. Beautiful work on this property. The phrase carried implications that my family was still processing. When Emma bought this lot and designed the house, Margaret continued conversationally, we were all amazed by her vision. Custom homes like this really elevate the entire neighborhood. When Emma bought this lot, the words hit the room like a legal document being read aloud. I'm sorry, Uncle Mike said slowly, but there seems to be some confusion. This property belonged to Emma's grandmother. Margaret looked genuinely puzzled. Oh no, Emma purchased this land directly from the developer 3 years ago. I remember the HOA approval process for her architectural plans very clearly. Jenny's phone had stopped moving as she stared at Margaret with growing comprehension. Emma designed and built this entire estate herself, Margaret continued proudly. We've had several architectural magazines request interviews about the innovative design elements. Architectural magazines, featuring the house that my family had just spent 2 hours redistributing among themselves. The property deed shows Emma Chin as sole owner, Margaret added matter-of-factly. All HOA correspondence goes directly to her as the homeowner. Sole owner. The legal reality that invalidated every room assignment, renovation plan, and utility sharing agreement they just negotiated. Aunt Patricia's hand-drawn floor plan suddenly looked like what it was. A fantasy document with no legal foundation. The silence stretched until Margaret glanced around uncertainly. I hope I haven't said anything inappropriate? Not at all, I said calmly. You've been very helpful in clarifying property ownership details. Margaret left after a brief discussion of HOA business, promising to email the boundary dispute documentation for my review as vice president. The Easter gathering never recovered its festive atmosphere. Aunt Patricia carefully folded her hand-drawn floor plan, her property distribution authority evaporating along with her assumptions about inheritance law. "Emma," Mom said finally, "why didn't you tell us you owned the house? You never asked how I acquired the property. You assumed it was inherited and began dividing it accordingly." Uncle Mike found his voice. "But the way you let us make all those plans. You made those plans without consulting the actual property owner." I was curious to see how far the conversation would go. Jenny deleted the pool house photos from her phone while Tom quietly abandoned his East Wing renovation ideas. 6 months later, I received a family reunion invitation with a handwritten note. "Emma, so sorry about the Easter misunderstanding. We'd love to celebrate at your beautiful home again." Your beautiful home. The same home they'd spent an evening redistributing among family members. I declined politely and hosted my own gathering, an architectural showcase for local designers, featuring my custom home as an example of innovative residential design. The article in Architectural Digest included photos of every room my family had claimed, with detailed explanations of the design process and construction challenges I'd personally managed. Sometimes the best response to presumption is simply owning what's yours. The basement recreation room now serves as my wine cellar.